Hello, thank you for joining me again. If you remember our last visit, excuse me, we talked about how pesticides had affected my family, and this time I want to talk to you about how and why, not how, why I began growing chickens. So if you remember back a few visits ago, while I was real sick, Kirsten, my wife Kirsten, began doing research about with my symptoms about what was wrong with me to try and figure out how to make me better. So during that time, she discovered that a lot of my trouble could be traced to pesticides, the exposure to pesticides, and the bad food that I was eating. And finally, during that time, we found a good doctor, an alternative medicine doctor named Dr. John. His last name is real hard to understand, but Dr. John Gnaim is his last name. And he reinforced and supported Kirsten's findings, which were the relationship between pesticides and food and me. And he never gave me any drugs necessarily. He gave me an IV of vitamins and minerals to help build my body back up because I was so sick. I needed the strength. And upon occasion, while I was under his intensive care, now let me back up just a moment. The IVs, I went and got an IV from him every single week for 3 years straight. I would go to his office. Thankfully, it's only about 15 minutes away. I would go to his office and he would mix up an IV just for me based on my blood work. And I would get that IV. And then that's one thing. But what he did for me that was every single day and at least 3 times a day was that in coinciding with Kirsten's findings was I was on a real strict diet. And it wasn't a strict diet in the amount I ate, but what I ate. And he and Kirsten limited the foods that I consumed. Not the amount. In fact, I was encouraged to eat as much as I could possibly eat. So that Kirsten's research combined with Dr. John and then my knowledge of agriculture, being a farmer, we started connecting dots and realized that we needed to begin growing our own food to heal me and so that perhaps our children wouldn't become ill as well. So to do that, we needed to control what it was. We realized, I particularly realized once I began to understand the relationship, I had never connected the dots between, pesticides and food that I was actually eating and all the chemicals, but I'll get into that later. Geez, it's a good thing I have notes in front of me. We'd be off on a rabbit trail like a hound on the scent. We would be gone from what I was trying to talk about here today. We'd just be gone. Excuse me. Cold just lingering on me. So, food is medicine. Hippocrates' less famous quote, which you probably know his most famous quote, the Hippocratic oath that doctors take, first, do no harm. Well, the movement that I'm involved in, the clean food and clean eating and no pesticide movement, we use his less famous quote of, let food be thy medicine and thy medicine food. So let food be your medicine and your medicine be food. Because food is medicine. Everybody eats food every day, especially here in the United States. We all eat. And so that is a very powerful medicine. What you take in is a very powerful medicine to your body. It can either make you strong or it can make you weak and sick. Or it can lead to longevity and a long life of health, or it can lead to a life of sickness and disease and frailment instead of strength. So combining all of this together and our decision, no understanding that we needed to grow our own food, led us to growing, well, we grew vegetables. We had acres upon acres of vegetables, and we also grew chicken that whole time as well. We've been growing it for years. We've been growing our own chicken. We turned that into a business because we were farmers, and we did the vegetables and chicken together at the same time right up until last growing season. We had to stop. Kirsten and I, as I mentioned, we're over 50 now, and our bodies just can't take that kind of work. That's hard work, especially to do it without pesticides. I'll talk about that in future visits. But what we kept and what we still do is chicken, and we raise this chicken to the highest possible standard. It's pastured, and we feed it non-GMO. And I didn't put this in the written stuff below, but we harvest on farm to make sure that we keep our chickens, that we get our chickens back, or that we keep our chickens. And I'm going to just follow my notes here so I don't get away. We don't ever use any pesticides. I don't know if I mentioned this already. We use non-GMO feed, and they're pastured. Now, I don't have time, and I don't want to get into a long video here describing what all of that means and going into detail about why you should care. What you should care about is that I was sick. I was an industrialized farmer. I guess I've not told you that before. I was an industrialized farmer, not only a fourth generation, but we raised corn and soybeans. Dad and I farmed about 4,000 acres at one time, and we used lots of pesticides and lots of different kinds of pesticides. We had exposure to all of that, plus eating the bad food, and we had to stop that. And it's the relationship of understanding that now and connecting the dots through my own experience that I grow my own food, and now I'm making it available to you. I want to share it with you. And the reason I'm telling you all of this and gave you all the backstory first is so that you would understand that this chicken, this food that I am willing to share with you and sell to you, is raised to a standard. It's raised to a very, very, very high standard, almost unknown in, well, certainly not in the chicken industry, but it's known in the health and wellness industry, the way that we raise it. You cannot get better chicken. It is actively good for you. It is one of the foods that makes you strong and gives you a long life of health instead of giving you weakness and sickliness and frailty. And I'm going to go into explaining all that and diving into it. So the next time we visit, I'm going to begin talking with you. I'm going to explain, but our discussion will be about chicken. And I'm going to begin talking to you. I think I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with grocery store chicken. And then I'll go through that. That'll take several visits because it's yucky. But I want to explain it to you. And sorry, I just lost my train of thought. And then I will go into how we raise ours. Maybe I'll compare and contrast, make a point and then contrast a point, and make a point and contrast a point. That way I can keep these visits shorter. All right, this is the longest one I've done yet, 10 minutes. So I'm going to stop. Next time we visit, we'll begin talking about chicken. All right, eat well.